I will read a statement. We will not be taking questions today.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, I want to start by expressing my deep concern about information received in the last 48 hours by UN agencies, as well as many humanitarian and development NGOs, regarding severe cuts in funding by the United States. These cuts impact a wide range of critical programs, from life-saving humanitarian aid to support to vulnerable communities recovering from war or natural disasters, from development to fight against terrorism and illicit drug trafficking. The consequences will be especially devastating for vulnerable people around the world. In Afghanistan, more than 9 million people will miss out on health and protection services, with hundreds of mobile health teams and other services suspended. In northeast Syria, where 2.5 million people need assistance, the absence of US funding means programs are leaving large populations even more vulnerable. In Ukraine, cash-based programming, a key feature of the humanitarian response, reaching 1 million people in 2024, has been suspended in key regions. In South Sudan, funding has run out for programs to support people who have fled the conflict in neighboring Sudan, leaving border areas dangerously overcrowded. Meanwhile, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime will be forced to stop many of its counter-narcotics programs, including the one fighting the fentanyl crisis, and dramatically reduce activities against human trafficking. And funding for many programs combating HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria, and cholera have stopped. We have been extremely grateful for the leading role the United States has provided over the decades. For example, thanks to the generosity of donors led by the United States, the UN assists and protects more than 100 million people every year through our humanitarian programming. From Gaza to Sudan, Afghanistan, Syria, Ukraine, and beyond. American funding directly supports people living through wars, famines, and disasters, providing essential health care, shelter, water, food, and education, and the list goes on. The message is clear. The generosity and compassion of the American people have not only saved lives, built peace, and improved the state of the world. They have contributed to the stability and prosperity that Americans depend on. United Nations staff members around the world are deeply proud of what we have accomplished together as partners. Now, going through with these cuts will make the world less healthy, less safe, and less prosperous. The reduction of America's humanitarian role and influence will run counter to American interests globally. I can only hope that these decisions can be reversed based on more careful reviews, and the same applies to other countries that have recently announced reductions in humanitarian and development aid. In the meantime, every United Nations agency stands ready to provide the necessary information and justification for its projects, and we look forward to working with the United States in this regard. All humanitarian coordinators in the field are urgently updating strategies on how to protect as much life-saving work as possible, and the Interagency Standing Committee, which brings together UN humanitarian agencies and our partners, has agreed on an ambitious plan for efficiency and prioritization. Our absolute priority remains clear. We will do everything we can to provide life-saving aid to those in urgent need. And we will continue our efforts to diversify the pool of generous donors who support our work. We remain committed to making the global humanitarian effort as efficient, accountable, and innovative as possible while continuing to save lives. Dear ladies and gentlemen of the media, next Tuesday I will be in Cairo to join the extraordinary summit of the League of Arab States to discuss the reconstruction of Gaza. Since the horrific attacks of terror by Hamas in Israel on October 7, the ensuing hostilities have unleashed an unprecedented level of death and destruction in Gaza. Gaza has become a nexus of death, displacement, hunger, and disease. Hospitals, schools, and water facilities have been destroyed and reduced to rubble, and the risk of further destruction looms over the population. Tuesday's summit is an opportunity for leaders across the Arab world to come together and discuss the elements required to deliver peace and stability in Gaza. Their unified position will help guide the way forward. I will outline key priorities. First, the ceasefire and hostage release deal must hold. The coming days are critical. The parties must spare no effort to avoid a breakdown of this deal. I urge them to uphold their commitments and implement all of them in full. All hostages must be released immediately and conditionally in a dignified manner. The parties must ensure humane treatment for all those held under their power, and all transfers must be carried out in a dignified way and as per the terms of the deal. Humanitarian aid must be maintained, protected, and funded, flowing without impediment to reach people in desperate need. Each moment the ceasefire holds means more people reached and more lives saved. Time and again, we have shown what we can deliver. Since the ceasefire, humanitarians have been able to scale up and expand operations in Gaza, including areas that were unreachable during the fighting. Together with our partners, we have reached hundreds of thousands of people, providing food to nearly everyone in Gaza, delivering shelter kits, clothing, and other essential items to tens of thousands of displaced people, and doubling the amount of clean water available to the people in Gaza. Meanwhile, our partners have distributed medical supplies reaching some 1.8 million people, helping health facilities continue their life-saving work. The message is clear. With the right conditions and access, we can do far more. The ceasefire must hold. We must keep the humanitarian lifeline open. And as part of this, I once again appeal for the urgent and full support of UNRWA's work. UNRWA's unique role must be maintained. Second, ending the immediate crisis is only a first step. There must be a clear political framework that lays the groundwork for Gaza's recovery, reconstruction, and lasting stability. And this framework must be based on clear principles. This means staying true to the bedrock of international law. It means preventing any form of ethnic cleansing. It means there should be no long-term Israeli military presence in Gaza. It seems address Israel's legitimate security concerns. It means accountability for violations of international law, and it means Gaza remains an integral part of an independent, democratic, and sovereign Palestinian state with no reductions in its territory or forced transfer of its population. Both Gaza and the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem, must be treated as one, politically, economically, and administratively, and governed by a Palestinian government that is accepted and supported by the Palestinian people. And any transitional arrangements must be designed to achieve a unified Palestinian government within a precise and limited time frame. I will also call for an urgent de-escalation of the alarming situation in the West Bank. Unilateral actions, including settlement expansion and threats of annexation, must stop. I call for an end to attacks on civilians and their property. Finally, we must take tangible steps now towards the realization of a two-state solution. The Palestinian people must have the right to govern themselves, to chart their own future, and to live on their land in freedom and security. The only path to lasting peace is one where two states, Israel and Palestine, live side by side in peace and security, in line with international law and relevant UN resolutions, with Jerusalem as the capital of both states. Palestinians deserve lasting stability and a just and principled peace. and the people of Israel deserve to live in peace and security. At this fragile moment, we must avoid the resumption of hostilities that would deepen the suffering and further destabilize a region that is already perched on a knife's edge. We need sustainable reconstruction and a unified, clear, and principled political solution. That's what I will call for in Cairo next week, and I thank you.
Thank you very much.
How long your suspension from the United States? Tens of millions, hundreds of millions?